Thank you, thank you. Great to have you all here for our first panel of the day. So we're going to make it an excellent one, as they all are here at Elite Business Live. So we have a fantastic group of panellists joining us here today. Obviously, we've just heard from Joseph Valente. Lots of things we can return to from that keynote just now. Welcome to you also, Chloe Clover, CEO of WNDYR, an award-winning agency and production company that's working with huge brands like the BBC, KPMG, McDonald's, Greggs. Every time I think of Greggs, I think of the vegan sausage roll controversy. I'm glad you still do after working with them. So thank you, Chloe, for joining us. You're very welcome. We're also joined by Mark Finlay, Chief Commercial Officer at Moneypenny. I'm sure lots of you will have heard of Moneypenny, a global leader in telephone answering, live chat and digital comms, and also one of the biggest and best known employers in Wrexham, which I think is a really important point to make. I've spoken to former Chief Exec Joanna Swash on the stage many times before, so welcome to you, Mark. And Nicola Cook, last but not least, Chief Opportunity Officer and CEO of Company Shortcuts. And I believe that's a consultancy which helps companies to grow. And you also are an author. I feel like we've had more authors than non-authors on this stage the last couple of days. I'm clearly going to have to write a book, pull my finger out and stop procrastinating, right, Joseph? So welcome everyone, our panel up here this morning. So we're here to talk about customer experience, customer service. And I'm going to be a bit provocative, if I may, to begin with. Why does it matter? In this climate, as we've outlined this morning, it's a really tricky time. There's lots of cost pressures on lots of businesses. You know, isn't it just a kind of race to the bottom? Chloe, would you like to start?
Yeah, a race to the bottom. I think short term, I think it's a difficult climate, and I think lots of businesses are looking, our customers are looking to spend less, absolutely. But I think long term, you've got to put that investment into experience and customer experience to maintain a relationship with your customers, to make sure that you build that trust and that you can continue to work and grow on that relationship over time. So I think, yeah, short term things are quite difficult, absolutely, for lots of businesses right now, but long-term customer experience has to be a priority to help grow that client and grow that customer.
Thank you, Chloe, and I'm sure that will resonate with many people here. How about you, Mark? Because obviously Moneypenny's been around for a while, and you don't get that kind of staying power without providing an excellent service, do you?
Yeah, but we see that in our customer base in terms of, companies are struggling. It's a difficult economic environment. The easy decision is to cut back on customer service. But the companies that thrive and continue to grow are the ones that invest in it and double down on it. If you look at, some of the best companies in the world, they're renowned for their customer service and it drives brand value over the long term. But it is a really difficult decision because when you're leaning into a tough economic environment, you're looking for places to cut costs. But it is a short-term decision because ultimately that will impact your customers, it will impact your customer lifetime value and ultimately the growth of the business. But it's about being brave and leaning into that, I think.
You're right, and actually that resonates with something I heard from an entrepreneur I was interviewing for the paper a few weeks ago, and she said that in the early days they really over-serviced their customers, and every customer in the early days was the loss leader, but they knew that it would pay off in the long term because of the network effects, and it absolutely has. They've just been bought at a valuation of £300 million, so clearly it's worked out okay for them. And how about you, Nicola, listening into this, when you're advising companies on their growth strategy, how much of a part does customer experience play in that?
Well, there's two elements to it, because if you get it wrong, it's the fastest way to lose a customer. And what you have to remember is that your customer service experience or your CX experience is your potential customers are not comparing their engagement with you against other competitors. They're comparing you with everybody else in every other kind of sector or everything else that they could possibly engage with. So they have exceedingly and increasingly high expectations. And if you can focus on every process that you put in place, be it pre-sale or post-sale process, it's about anticipating and then fulfilling that customer's need, however that's done, whether it's through a human-to-human contact or some kind of automation in whatever way, then you are servicing them and they will be left with a positive feeling, which is ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, some great points there, and we'll come back to the theme of automation. Joseph, turning to you, so when we think particularly about the trades, right? Now, how many people in this room have been left waiting for a tradesperson to turn up? I'm sure there are many of us. They're not always known for their great customer experience, actually. So when you're speaking to business owners in this space, and we heard from you earlier talking about profit, and some of this stuff does, it can eat into profit, as we've heard, right? So what's your advice to them?
So for me, I see it as a real competitive advantage that there are so many businesses that don't focus on customer service, because to be successful in business, you don't need to reinvent the wheel in a lot of cases. You just need to modify it. When I was 26 and I decided to take my business from a maintenance plumbing company to a boiler installation business, I went out there and I got loads and loads of quotes from all the different businesses, and some of them were absolutely awful. And the best one in the market was British Gas, but they were priced the highest. So what I did is I replicated their process and their sales presentation, and I brought the price down. So we had the best product, package, and service in the market, but it was also for a mid-market price. So I think it's about finding the best businesses out there and following what those guys are doing, and knowing that many of your competition just won't have the right mindset. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say on the tough economic climate, try not to get too bought into that, because that can just drag you down or lose focus. And what you want to do is you want to just provide value to the customer. Mm-hmm. It's about increasing that value.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, you should keep reading the Times, though. That should be reiterated. I can see you nodding along there, Chloe. And I think Joseph just mentioned an important point around pricing, getting the pricing right. And I can imagine in a world like yours, where it's all about getting really skilled people to come and work on the production, that's really expensive, right? And the price must fluctuate a huge amount.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really similar. We when we initially started, we were doing stuff that was for cost, right? And we did that to grow our brand. But we quickly realised that that wasn't sustainable, and there was no way that we could grow our business in doing that. And that's when value became our priority, and that comes into customer experience, doesn't it? Right. So how much value you can give that client, and then the more value you can give, the higher your price point can be, because it's not based off of. If you stop basing your cost on time and start basing it on value, then that's when you can really start to grow your company and really give the most to that client. You've got the time to be able to spend more time with them.
And how did you learn all this stuff? Was it just by doing it, or did you have a great mentor?
Yeah. So it was pretty much by doing. Yeah. So we started 6 years ago. We're actually wandering, which is where the name Wander comes from. Myself and my business partner I similar to you actually. I dropped out of school at 15. And we just felt really lost. And I'm from, you probably tell by my accent, I'm from the northeast. I'm from Middlesbrough. So yeah, our options at that time were very limited on what we could do. So we just bought a one-way ticket to the other side of the planet and just went to figure it out. It's while we were there that we saw the gap in the market for personality and content. There was lots of corporate bullshit online. Sorry if I'm not allowed to say that word. There was lots of corporate stuff. Brands didn't know. They were sort of putting out what they wanted to put out and not thinking about what the audience wanted to see. And we spotted that quite quickly. And that's how we started, and that's how we grew. And always having that customer in mind was key to that, I think.
Just give us a flavour where you are now as a business in terms of employees, turnover.
Yeah, so we're just about to be 25. We work with some of the biggest brands. So we work with like Greggs and KPMG. Actually, my brain's really foggy, so I do apologise. But to give you an idea, we just flew back from South by Southwest, where we were representing the UK at the festival in Austin, Texas. So things are really, really exciting at the minute.
Wow, that's incredible. Quick round of applause for Chloe. And so, Mark, let's return to you. So now this theme of automation, right? When we're thinking about customer experience, can we just, kind of make a chatbot do it all now?
Absolutely not. I think for us, AI is a massive opportunity, but it's about blending AI and automation with humans as well to deliver a better experience. I feel that a lot of the talk at the moment with respect to AI and automation is, we can do it cheaper and we can do it quicker. It's actually, there's not a lot of talk about, is the customer experience actually getting better? And, you know, with all the technology that's around in the world today, I think most people would say in their interactions with a lot of brands, actually customer service is worse. You know, trying to get through to someone, like, or, you know, go on a website, you can't find a phone number in a lot of cases. They're forcing you down automated channels that don't always work. So from a Moneypenny perspective and the businesses that we work with across various industries, we are leaning into provided AI and automation, but in a blended fashion with humans as well. So about providing customer journeys that are relevant to the caller and the business, but also giving the opportunity to escalate to a human if you need to, not keeping them in that automated channel. We've all had those interactions with a bank or an insurance company, and it's just so frustrating. And for our clients, an interaction is a high value one. It could be a new sale, it could be an existing customer, but they want that inbound contact. They're not trying to deflect it. So therefore, automation for automation's sake, oh right, I've put automation in, it's saving me $5,000 a month. If you frustrate one customer, that and they are very, you know, they're high value, they're selling their business, or they've got a high value legal inquiry, or whatever it is, you've blown out that efficiency by frustrating that one customer. So it's about making customer journeys better and not driving automation for automation's sake.
Got it. Would you agree with that, Nicola?
Well, I actually agree with a lot of things that have been said. You know, I mean, I've got a portfolio of businesses who all have different customers and different routes to market. And I've been doing this for 20 years now. So I remember the olden days, for those of us who are, I think I'm probably the oldest person on the panel here, you know, when everything was either done from either a retail perspective on a high street basis, or if you were selling into business to business, you know, you had an army full of sales reps out with their red Ford Sierras driving the motorways with the boots full of samples, and off we went. And the world has completely changed, but it's finding that right balance, because as consumers, we are, with the advancement of technology and connectivity, you know, we now have the world at the end of our thumbs, and we don't necessarily need education from a human when we as a customer are going through our customer journey. So that creates a number of challenges. So one of the things that Joseph said in his keynote is about niching, and you also said there about adding that extra value, is part of your CX experience should also be about how do you quantify the value that you deliver, so that you don't end up only competing on price, because that is a race to the bottom. So it can form part of your overall sales strategy as well. And then obviously supporting it with the right kind of automation and putting the customer at the heart of that journey, literally thinking about it consciously and thinking about, you know, when this customer comes into contact, which is the doorway that they're most likely to come through, what is their expectation, and how can we anticipate and then fulfill that need to ensure that every touch point with your brand adds value. You know, I've got a good example from like a Dyson, which is, I'm not affiliated to them in any way, but I can remember, you know, a couple of days before Christmas when my Dyson broke. I still want to say Hoover at that point, but, you know, and you're kind of running around going, how do I get in touch with them? And you were saying about websites, you can't even find the telephone numbers. I remember like looking around and there's a big number printed on the machine. And I was like, that's genius. Because who could remember where you put the paperwork 5 years ago? And it's thinking in those types of terms when you're thinking about mapping out customer experiences, as in what is their need and how can you fulfill it, whether that's with a sales mindset or from a post-sales mindset.
Some great points there. Sorry, just quickly, Mark, yeah.
But that's just so important, isn't it? Because that example has prompted you. That's stuck
tell
in your
that
mind,
story all the
tell
time.
That story because it's different and it's unusual, and therefore, and you know, and everyone associates that with Dyson with being a great brand, great customer service, and that snowballs and compounds because that type of thing now feels quite rare, doesn't it? Usually it's like on the website and it's go through self-serve and then you give up because you can't be bothered.
Yeah. No, I phoned a customer service helpline the other day and I had my query dealt with in 3 minutes.
Wow.
And it was quite complicated and I was absolutely thrilled, but that should be the norm, shouldn't it? How do you think about technology? So in the sectors in which you've operated and grown your businesses in the past, you know, would you say the trades are sometimes a bit slower to adopt new technology? How have you used it to help in your company?
Yeah, so I run an 8-figure training business now, not a trades business, but I think for trades, AI is coming for all of us in a good way, and for some people in a bad way. It's gonna wipe out a lot of jobs in a lot of sectors. It'll probably touch the construction industry last from a physical trades point of view. That we're just about to roll out a team of AI agents. We have lots and lots of events that we run every month, and so we got guys on the phones making those calls. A big team. If you'd have asked me that question in 3 months, I might have been able to tell you how the results were from the AI agents.
And tell us, yeah.
Absolutely. The investment in AI for every business now should be one that they consider.
Is it hard when you're such a figurehead of your business? People want to speak to Joseph Valente, don't they? They don't want to speak to your sales agent, whether it's a real human or a chatbot.
Well, that's a good thing with AI because you can clone yourself. So now there's 2,000 phone calls a day going out to the market with my voice on it. No, it's not.
Amazing. Well, maybe next year we'll have the Joseph Valente clone and see if anyone notices. Has anyone in the audience got a question for any of our panellists? Latifah's got a mic. Thank you so much, Latifah. We've got some in the front row. Any more? Okay, we're saving your legs today. They're all in this front section here. Just this gentleman on the front row first, and then we'll pass the mic along. Thank you so much.
Hi there. First of all, it's great that you've got a person up north who is successful.
I'm also a Geordie.
I know, me too, but Geordie as well, yeah. Just, you were talking about the customer service part of things. Now, I'm a pre-startup at the minute, so we are going to be launching, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, if we raise the money, doing eco products, starting with toilet paper, made out of bamboo. And what I'm wondering is, I'm lucky that I've got a team in place and infrastructure for kind of HR, customer service, logistics, supply. It's a team that I've built. But for those people who don't have that team in place and who are, that one-person band, doing their own thing, what would be 2 or 3 really simple, practical tips for that customer service or sales side of things so they can generate that interest?
Okay, I'm going to suggest Joseph answers this initially, because you talked before about taking them from kind of solopreneurs all the way up the scale, and also perhaps Nicola, yeah?
I mean, the first one for me is get very, very good at multitasking. A solopreneur needs to be able to do everything, and they need to be able to deal with a lot, especially in the early days. And then to build a better service, you've got to start offloading those tasks. As quickly as you can afford to do so, start hiring some support. In administration or answering the phones or whatever it may be. I've never really been a big fan of VAs. I like to hire the team with me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Nicola?
Yeah, I would actually mirror a lot of what you said there is don't stress too much. Get the basics right would be my advice. Focus on what you can do and what you can do well, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just focus on your customers, what they would need, and deliver that. As soon as you're able, similar to what Joseph was saying, I'm not a massive fan of VAs, but I am a massive fan of part-timers. So as you're scaling, there's an army, not to put myself in a box here, but there's an army of women with school-age kids who will snap your hand off for a 20-hour-a-week job that can do a lot of those admin tasks. And then set your tech stack up with the intention of growth. So think about and anticipate what you think your CX and customer journey experiences will need to be as you add zeros to your turnover and profit, and ensure that you invest and have one source of data truth. So where you have multiple sources of data in various systems, they need to be able to talk to each other, because there's nothing more frustrating from a customer service perspective than talking to somebody and them not having the accurate information that you need. So those are some real basics and obviously culture, team, making sure that people have the right kind of mindset, that they care, that they really do think about, who you are there to serve.
And just a quick reminder for anyone who doesn't know what VA means.
Virtual assistant.
Okay, cool. I thought so, but we're just checking for everybody here. Where's that mic? Thank you very much. Let's go to the gentleman on the end first, and we will get to you, sir, I promise.
Sneaked up on me there. Hey guys, I'm Dan. I'm co-founder of Goldilocks, and in my business...
You're going to have to explain briefly what Goldilocks is now, I think.
Yeah, okay, so Goldilocks. It's a venture built from my own adversity with alopecia and the trauma that came with it. And I believe I've found a way that I can help people get the glow back by creating wellness experiences to achieve that. what I've been able to do, I've been able to blend sustainable enterprise with social impact. And so I've got customers, I've got beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are the ones that take the spa experiences to help them restore their confidence. My customers are the ones who buy the merch and the services to enable that to happen. And when it comes to customer experience and social impact, I'd love to hear from the panel if they've got examples of what they've observed, what they've been involved in, especially when there's a men's mental health crisis in construction, for example. Can they share some insights about how their customer experience is bolstered by their social impact activities?
Great. I'd like Chloe. Can we come to you on that one first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's kind of twofold for us, probably. I'm a CEO of our organisation, so I guess part of that customer experience to me personally would be our team. And in our industry, only 8% just an example of something that's going on. In our industry, only 8% of the workforce is actually from a working class background, and so we have to, so it's really important, and I'm also from a working class background, as is, in fact, as is our whole team, I think, or the vast majority. So we're always looking at identifying what's important to our team. So yeah, again, as a CEO, I think of a customer not only as a client, but also as a team member, and looking at understanding what is important to them and how we can do things to support. Mental health, for example, we've implemented, so we do additional holidays. And then on top of that, we do what we call mental health days, and that's no questions asked, short notice. You can take, there's a day a quarter, and you can sit in your bed and read comics all day if that's what you want to do, or you need it because something's come up and you really need to go see someone, and we don't ask any questions, and you can take that time because that's important to our team. So we're always looking for that feedback loop on what's important for our customers and how we can do things to support them, and also what's important to our team and the sorts of things we can put in place to support them as well.
Thank you for that, Chloe. Just a couple of quick thoughts from you, Mark, on this, actually, because I think you do lots in the local community in Wrexham, don't you?
Yeah, one of the largest employers in Wrexham, kind of engaging with the local community is massive for us, and we spend a lot of time with our staff trying to understand what they want from it as well. So that's a kind of key pillar to our culture and who we are as a business, and ESG is a kind of big priority for the board, and showing how we're giving back, I guess, as well. Literally at the moment, we've got solar panels going on top of the building to drive down our carbon emissions as well on the environmental side. So yeah, it's front and centre for customers. That's, in procurement processes. It's really important that there's that ESG focus, and it's something that's really important to us.
Just on that as well, I was just thinking that, there's a key stat that is but actually our BDM is in the audience, and she'll love the fact that I'm about to say this, because she was the one that sort of brought this to me. But by 2030, 30% of our workforce will be Gen Z. Which is huge, and boomers are going into retirement. So, and mindsets of generations. Sorry, why is everyone laughing?
No, because I put my hand up as being that category, then I'm on the way out.
Oh, no.
Right, carry on. Interrupted you, Flo.
No, it's cool. My point is just that what matters to people is different, and what we're seeing coming through is that Gen Z are looking to employers, or to when they're buying from brands, they're looking for that social impact, that social responsibility. That's really important to them. So I think that's just something that is kind of really key and really growing at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chloe. We're going to come to the gentleman in the middle here with the mic, please. Just a quick thought on that from you, Joseph, because you were talking earlier about profitability, and it's something we're obsessed with, actually, at the times when we write about businesses. Is it a proper business? Is it making profit rather than just running on venture capital, cash and hot air? They're the kinds of businesses we like. So all this sounds great, but it's not great if you're not making enough money, is it?
Well, it depends. You can give back more when you've got the money to be able to do so. I remember Richard Branson saying, if I wanted to be charitable, me just being me, I could go and help one person. But when I become a billionaire, I can go and help 1 billion people. Mm-hmm. So the more money that you've got, the more people that you can help.
Yeah. Great, thank you very much. Thank you for being so patient.
It's my pleasure as an older person from London. I apologise. So, I'm Andy, by the way. You got me thinking, Joseph, about something that I always consider. So, Grant Cardone, for example, successful salesman, but quite aggressive in his style, American. And you talked about that. I think it was a 7 to 12 touch points with the customer. For an English or British market, do you think we should balance in any way how we communicate with potential clients or clients as opposed to the American hard way? And how do you keep that contact with potential clients or old clients without hacking them off and breaching GDPR?
I mean, it's a great question.
Yeah,
Joseph.
look, I think the stats don't lie. If the stats say it's between 8 to 12 points of contact to convert 80% of your customers, then that's what you need to do. It doesn't mean that you need to do it aggressively, okay? You need to do it in the right way, but you need to be consistent. So it's not just about picking up the phone 12 times, it's about showing up where your customers hang out. We've run ads to the same marketplace now for many years, and on our events, people come and they say, we saw your ads 4 years ago. We get an email from you every 3 days. But now we've only just decided to pull the trigger. So if I was worried about upsetting a customer, it would probably mean that my marketing activity wouldn't be as consistent as it currently is, meaning that we would lose lots and lots of customers. So you've just got to continue to show up, and the stats don't lie. So don't worry about upsetting customers that aren't customers. Worry about getting customers and then looking after those customers. That's how I approach it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. We're almost out of time.
I was going to say, I have to comment on that as well, is the fact that you're absolutely right in the way that customers want to engage with us has completely changed as technology has revolutionized. And I describe it as that we have to, as businesses, we have to create the environment of buying as opposed to that sort of aggressive selling, particularly in the UK market. Other markets, Australia, America, a bit more still open to that. And the thing that has shifted is that the point of engagement of the human-to-human contact has been delayed further down the customer journey than ever before. There's some Forrester research and some Goldman Sachs research that whereas before the transition between marketing and sales was around about 25% through a customer journey, it's now between 75 and 82% is when you will have your first human interaction in the customer journey. And if you want to stop customers engaging with you at the point of negotiation, where the first conversation they'll have with you is what's your best price, because they've done all their own research, that's where you have to think about building a CX experience that builds on the value proposition that you were talking about earlier, that explains to them how you can serve them and solve their problems so that they come when they do engage with you, or whether you're proactively following that down, as Joseph would do, is you meet at a common point.
Some really great advice there, which I'm afraid wraps things up for this session. So please thank my fantastic panel, Nicola, Mark, Chloe and Joseph. They're now going to head backstage to Ollie. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you so much. So now they're going to make their way back to Ollie, who's waiting backstage to give them their second grilling of the morning. Just a quick reminder of the next keynote session here in the main studio. That's with Brian Horsberg from Dell. And then that will be followed by a panel on transforming your tech stack, which was one of the things that came up in the conversation here. Ollie, are you receiving me?
Loud and clear, Hannah. That's right. They're in for their second grilling. We make them work hard, our guests here at Elite Business Live. There'll be like a triple cooked chip at the end of this, Hannah. And you've got us thinking about the companies that do a great job and the ones that fall short. So thank you, and I will take it from here. But a fantastic session. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Ollie.
Well, here we are. We are at Elite Business Live 2025, and we're talking about CX, customer experience, and hot off a plane, basically. Chloe, come and join us. Chloe, it's very good to see you. How are you?
It's really good.
Now, Chloe Clover, you may already know, runs Wander and has just got off a plane from South by Southwest.
I have, yes. Yeah.
So on that, what do you think we can learn, Chloe, from how Americans and I'm generalising, aren't I, look after people that you think we could take a tip or two to put into practice here in the UK?
Do you know what? It is a completely different experience over there. It's just us as Brits, we're a little bit less bold. Well, we can be bold, but we're just a little bit. We don't like to talk about ourselves as much, and we're not as loud, and we tend not to often make the first move and that sort of stuff. We like to take things a little bit more chill, and so but I do think that we can learn a lot from the way that the US market and Americans do things, in that they're really proud of their achievements, and they love talking about it, and they're really invested in what you've done in yours, and they're not off put by it. So I think there's a lot that we can learn.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, as a former Disney World employee, I totally agree with that. That is true.
Nice.
I've got a Mickey Mouse degree.
I was going to say, were you Mickey Mouse?
No. I was too tall for Mickey, actually, to be honest. Never mind. Anyway, moving on. Let's stop taking it. Now, Wonder is a phenomenal agency with world-class clients. So, what have you learned about how you look after them that you think gives you the edge as a team? Because you've got household name brands queuing up to work with you. What are they saying in terms of how you've made those small differences in how you look after them?
It really does all come down to personality, and that runs through everything we do, whether that's external, internal, whether that's how we present ourselves online, or whether that's how we speak to our customers on a one-to-one basis, how we take them through the process. It all comes down to personality. Like people, we connect to certain people, and business is exactly the same. Your business needs to feel human and and have emotion and have values. And be its own thing.
So let's, and I'm sort of zooming in on that example because I think it's brilliant. What sort of thing might someone experience with Wonder, which is independent, much more sort of boutique, if I can say that, than some of these big global agency groups? What would they say or experience with you that they might not if they went to some huge giant?
Fun. Basically, fun. Like we're real humans at the end of the day. We've got time to spend on building real human connection, and having fun with our clients, and that's actually one of our values, and it's one of our personality traits. So we really want to connect on that deeper, a little bit cheeky level with our clients.
Well, kudos for all that you're doing with Wonder.
Thank you.
Congratulations for representing the UK at South by Southwest. Welcome back. Very proud to have you back here at Elite Business Live. Thank you very much, Chloe. Good to see you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
That's Chloe Clover. And our next guest, I wonder if I'm picking on Joe. Come and join us. Joseph. Mr. Valente.
Hello, how you doing?
Very well indeed. Joseph Valente, you will recognise already, former winner of The Apprentice, has built multiple hugely successful businesses, now helping other people. 2 quick questions for you, Joseph. You left school unexpectedly. That's a polite way of saying Joe's expelled. What would you change about today's schools so that entrepreneurial sorts, which is every child, thrive rather than fall by the wayside?
I think it's trying to lean into what that student, is really interested in. Yeah. I got bored very, very easily. Yeah. And, going to an art class when you can't draw and then being told that you're a failure isn't a good thing. Yeah. So, you've got to lean into those specialist subjects. I know they've got to try and create a one-size-fits-all environment to be able to educate. But for me, it'd be trying to create more specialist environments for certain types of kids.
More hands-on, exactly. A bit more personalised, probably.
Yeah.
Also accepting that we can't do anything when we're first starting. We're playing.
Absolutely.
We're experimenting, right? Now, Hannah grilled you on the main stage about this, about a campaign to get more entrepreneurs involved in government.
Yep.
So let's say Keir Starmer, Prime Minister, calls you up, says, I'd like to take you up on that, Joe. What does that start to look like in practice? What would you say?
So I think the first thing that needs to happen is that when somebody registers a limited company, they have to fill out a survey that tests them on basic business competencies. Do you know anything about marketing? Do you know anything about sales? Do you understand your numbers? Because most businesses fail because they're allowed to just go and register a business with no prior experience, get credit, and just go into the market and cause chaos. It's not about throttling entrepreneurship.
And number 10 says, great, you're on.
Yep.
We'll do it. Companies House have somehow agreed to this.
Yep.
Everyone's filling out that information now. We've now got that data set. What are you going to do with it?
Give them a free course that's going to allow them to get the skills they need to grow.
Right. And the last thing that people would want is presumably the government telling them how to do that. So who delivers that course? How, I just want to hit a home run because this is such a good practical example.
Well, you know, maybe the government creates some form of organisation that rolls out the education. Maybe it's Companies House that needs to take on the responsibility and create an education department for businesses. Or I'll head it up and I can do it under my business.
Right, well, there's an offer there. But actually, a really useful thought around if we see DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, where actually you've got specific entrepreneurs like Joe Gebbia, co-founder of Airbnb, taking a bite of the problem rather than covering the whole thing with big generalisms. So that's why this is interesting. One thing, Joseph, that you wish you'd known as you stepped out of The Apprentice, having won the whole thing against 60,000 competitors. Go back to that former Joseph and give him a word in his ear.
Listen to Lord Sugar a little bit more.
And what thing that he said would you have listened to?
Well, I was very, very ambitious. I started my business at 22 because I read his book, What You See Is What You Get. And I wanted to move at such a pace. He was telling me to slow down. I was saying, no, we need to speed up. And so maybe I would have removed the ego earlier and taken the advice. There was a gentleman that mentors me now, who's another billionaire, and he said, you know, Joseph, it's a classic mistake of believing your own hype when you make mistakes in business. So now I'm a lot more humble, and you know, I wish I listened to him a little bit more.
So finally on that, because you've raised that really important thought around pace, and to some you come across as, and I mean this as a compliment, someone moving at pace. You're not a slow-moving individual. So how do you decide when to put your foot on the gas and when to slow down?
It's about having access to the right financial information. If you grow wildly and recklessly without having the data, that's dangerous. That's what I did in my 20s. It's about having the right financial information, the right team, and just understanding the economics better of a business.
Yeah, I get that. I suppose my question, forgive me, is actually more personal. It's about when you go at 100 miles an hour, whereas you say it's time to pull off the motorway now and have a break.
Only if there's a cash flow implication. Other than that, it's all systems go.
And how about, and so what about time to think, time to reflect, time to get clarity, to let the, you know, snow in the snow globe settle?
Well, I get up about 6 o'clock in the morning. From 6 till maybe 6:45, I do hot tub, sauna and ice bath. And so in that little routine,
this is wonderful, do you?
I do that little routine in my house, and then I think, no phone, and I just connect.
That's why I'm pleased we had an extra minute or two on this. Thank you so much, Joseph Valente. Very good.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Brilliant. Thank you.
Well, it's Elite Business Live. We're getting our guests at it's sort of a mind spa. That's how we like to think of it here. And our next guest, she hasn't got her fluffy robe on, but it's Nicola Cook. Welcome, Nicola.
Hi.
Hello,
Ollie.
Good to see you. Always a pleasure to see you.
And
Nicola
you,
Cook leads Company Shortcuts. Absolutely phenomenal in terms of helping companies, particularly sell more. Let's be quite transparent. Today, Nicola, we've been talking about customer experience. So I was almost going to go back to that thought of who does it well, who inspires you?
Oh, instantly my brain goes, who doesn't do it well? Like, who are all the people who at the moment are really failing?
Well, we can go there first, and let's talk about a bugbear. What really grinds your gears?
British Airways at the moment. So British Airways invested very heavily in customer service a few years ago, post strikes and so on, and they had good technology. You know, I can't tell you how many flights I've nearly missed at Heathrow because the app hasn't updated, because you get reliant on the fact that it used to be consistent, that it would tell you which gate to go to, and it doesn't. Had a situation just this last month where they've actually charged me twice for a flight because there was a glitch in the system at the point where we were pressing the button. So it came up on my Amex statement.
Right,
I was
so that's the world's favourite airline, not Nicola Cook's favourite airline.
Definitely not, and I'm still battling that.
Let's have another example at either extreme, either the hero or the villain, because it brings it to life.
Well, I think when you think about customer service, which has been the topic of the panel that I've been on today, is that one of the best in the world, you'll love this, is Disney.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember I did the family Disney tour a few years ago and stuff, and I did the backstage pass where I went because I wanted to understand how do they do this, and if I can remember them right, they're 4 core values underpin. So it's safety, show, efficiency, and another one. Can you remember? No, you can't remember.
Well, I struggle to remember Mickey, Minnie, Donald.
But it's really interesting when they think about how they embed those into every single part, every decision that they make. So,
Nicola, I'm not going to rise to the bait of talking for hours about this. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But not only are they so hot on guest experience,
Yes.
but they're hot on what they call traditions. So
Yes.
2 whole days explaining
Yeah.
the history of the company,
Yeah.
where you fit. Also on
And it
management of expectation.
Absolutely.
So they'll say, yes, we exceed expectation, but not by too much.
Exactly.
Because otherwise we let our successes
And it works because they have the highest level of repeat experience.
They do.
Of customers wanting to re-experience that of any other brand in the world.
So where are you? And I'm sorry we could do like another half-hour sit-down actually.
Yeah,
'Cause
sure.
I want to grill you on all these examples. Where are you on when companies should be using technology, AI sometimes, chatbots, to interact versus good old human beings on the end of a phone or in person? How are the companies you work with navigating that conundrum?
So my specialism, as you know, is about helping businesses scale their sales function, build what I call a sales engine. So particularly in this kind of size of company where you're going from very director-led selling into now having a sales system. And one of the building blocks of that is tools. And AI fits into that. So it's a whole area of things. So it's about codifying and being consistent in the way that you are selling and mapping all of that out. And then deciding how you can increase efficiency through supporting tools, either customer interacting tools or tools that support the team, and AI slots into that. So it's got to be done in a thoughtful way. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because it's something that you think it should be doing.
Also,
it should be done in a joined up way and in a way that accelerates your customer experience.
So let's bring this to life a little bit, because what you've set out there, as ever, very clearly clear thinking. It sounds like a minefield.
Yes.
Companies could go bungling into this and do exactly the opposite of what they intended, which is annoy people.
Yes.
So help us understand how some of the
make
best...
you laugh now, because the way that I do this with customers is literally we start with a board table and some post-it notes, and we map out the customer journey. And you never just have one, because you have multiple customer journeys depending on where they're at in their engagement with you, whether they're a first-time customer, a repeat customer, an upsell, a lost customer, whatever. And we go through it. And we go, what is the emotion that customer wants to feel?
Yes.
How do we anticipate that need, and what's the action that we want them to take?
Yes.
And then what are the assets that are going to help them move from this stage to this stage? And those assets can be made up of people, information, AI would fall into that, and being very clear and purposeful. And then you can build the technology around it. And then you can think about how do you embed that within your systems that you have and your capabilities of the systems, or do you need to plug extra stuff in?
Yeah, on that. And I love that. You're going back to the boardroom
table with post-it notes, different colours.
Focused.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to want to end on a positive, of course. One other organisation or individual that does it really well. Who should we be aspiring
Now you're getting me thinking. Who have I had a really good experience with lately? I actually would like to give a shout out for the banking industry. Now, before you go like this, for the challenger banks, because they are innovating, and where we've all got our old high street banks where, I'm sure you want to have words with them about various things, and they make it so hard. And then you get, you can open one of the challenger bank kind of bank accounts, take a photograph, you've got everything that you need, and they make it so easy.
Yeah, and of course their bigger brothers and sisters would say, well, those challengers haven't got these legacy systems, but it's not an excuse. Really,
it's not an excuse, not in today's world, because we as consumers are, we value brands based on our experience with them.
Well, you're touching a nerve here, Nicola, having been through a 55-minute Know Your Customer call recently with a very well-known high street bank.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
You work with great startups, but also very established organisations.
Scale-ups is
the
more,
sweet spot.
Scale-ups and investments.
I just think I'm so happy because we spend so much time talking about investment and venture capital, and great.
Yeah.
But the source of revenue at the top of the list should be customers.
Absolutely, yeah. And building a repeatable, scalable, profitable sales engine for growth.
Love it. Company shortcuts, all you need to know and more. Nicola Cook, it's always very lovely to see you.
And you, Ollie.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Care.
Thank
Bye.
you. That's Nicola Cook off the back of our CX conversation. We say, in terms of the James Bond effect of all of the secrets. Now, speaking of which, we say good morning to Moneypenny. in we come here. Mark Finlay's here. Very good to see you, Mark.
Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Now, Mark Finlay is at Moneypenny, which, if you don't know already, if you think you haven't interacted with Moneypenny, you probably have. You just didn't know it. Just explain.
That's what we always say, yeah. So we represent about 10,000 businesses across the UK and another 5,000 across the US, but we are an extension of our clients' business. So you will have spoken to many accountancy firms, law firms, healthcare businesses, estate agencies, and we'll have handled the call or the interaction or the chat, but you would never have known. You will expect that you are interacting with that brand.
So help us into that. This is Mark Finlay, if I haven't already said. In terms of performance, if I was working on the phones, shall we say, at Moneypenny, how would my performance be evaluated? Because it's a big question.
Yeah, so, if you think about a traditional call centre, there's banks and banks of people, everyone's crammed in, and there's wallboards everywhere, there's flashing signs, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. At Moneypenny, there's none of that. We're very, very proud of the office we have and the culture and the environment that we create there. And for us, it's all about making our people feel empowered. So we have what is known as a WOW dashboard, so people self-manage, and it's about how you perform relative to your team. So it's not about Big Brother, this is what you need to do. It's I can see how I'm performing against my peer.
Right, so conceptually, culturally, I understand this. However, we do want to know, how do I know if Jim in seat 57B is doing a good job in the way Jim interacts with customers? Because this is about customer experience.
Yep, so we are increasingly investing into AI and using AI to transcribe and summarise the calls. And then we will use AI also to kind of QA that as well. I would love to see that in terms of bulleted. I don't want to go into your product roadmap too controversially. Is the idea to share that with both customer and call taker? Yeah. So initially, it will be almost as a co-pilot for our receptionist to improve the output that they deliver to the clients. Ultimately, it will be transcriptions, summarizations in the customer portal, so they can see it all the way through.
Love that. Okay, now, I'm not going to mention them, but one of your fellow guests said, I couldn't believe this, right next to you, said, I'm not a fan of VAs, virtual assistants. Now, I'm going to put this down to some form of misunderstanding on their part. Well, what's a misconception? Why do you think they said that?
So we don't provide... A VA, a virtual assistant, is someone who will do your travel, who will do your personal diary, who will do everything for you.
Yeah, sounds great. What's wrong with that?
Well, Moneypenny don't do that. Right. So we are the customer conversation experts. So when you talk about Nicola in terms of, how do we scale up? How do we scale up our sales function? We help businesses do that in terms of the inbound communications that they're getting. So rather than having to, I need 5 salespeople because of all these inbound calls I'm getting, but actually, only 50%, 30% of those calls are valuable. So where we come into that is actually we qualify those, and then we'll book the appointment. So actually, I only need 2 salespeople, and then we will fill their calendar with qualified appointments.
It is the nerve centre. It's like conversational triage. I love.
Yes, exactly.
I wish we had another half an hour. We don't. So for now, I'm going to say, Mark Finlay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Also, Chief Commercial Officer of Moneypenny there, and we've got him on the spot about customer experience. Absolutely world-class. No surprise that they have been such a successful business. Well, it's Elite Business Live. We have got lots more sessions today, including on the tech stack and unpicking that a little bit. Who uses what? How could we be rethinking it? And of course, later on in the day, what is the price of going green? Is there one? What do customers think about that? And of course, secrets from those who have taken their business global. Much more on that after this short break.